Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 117 based on novel. So let's start. You deserve it. At the moment when the domineering voice came, the terrible soul pressure shrouded in the whole compartment was suddenly dispersed and disappeared. At the same time, in front of the hall, an old man in a brocade robe who had just stepped into it with his front foot and was leaning on a crutch couldn't help but utter a low stuffy hum. His throat rolled slightly, and just then pressed down the fishy sweet smell. The next moment, while the old man turned and looked up, his old face gradually became gloomy. A pair of sunken old eyes saw Xiao Yan coming rapidly from outside the compartment. Seeing Xiao Yang's handsome face, the old man's eyes could not help shrinking slightly. Unexpectedly, the man who had just pushed back his soul would be a hairy boy. There is a little dignity in his heart. If he can have such strong strength at this age, he will never be an unknown person. If he comes with his elders, it will be a little fun. Who is your excellency? The old man's eyes narrowed and blocked at the door of the hall. The crutches in the old man's hand were heavily on the floor tiles. With a click, subtle cracks spread. Get out. However, the old man's words came back with a very simple and overbearing word. Hearing the words from Xiao Yang's mouth, the old man's face couldn't help changing again, and his already gloomy face sank completely under this sentence. Good boy, I'd like to see. You're a hairy boy. Why should I go away? With a low, sharp drink, the old man's slightly bent body suddenly shook. Suddenly, a terrible momentum swept out of his body and turned into a fighting storm, which quickly swept through the hall. Feeling this overbearing momentum, everyone in the hall now looks dignified in an instant. The 8.5-star emperor really does not exist like ordinary strong people. At the same time, a pair of deep eyes of the old man suddenly emitted a light. Immediately, the old man's nose gave a cold hum, and his dry palm spun hard on the void in front of him. The palm shook, puffed, and a turbulent flame surged out of his palm. Under the control of the old man's powerful soul power, he turned into a red fire dragon and bombarded the rushing Xiao Yang. The appearance of this scene not only changed the face of the people in the compartment at the moment, but also caused the artificial alarm of several other compartments outside the compartment. All of them couldn't help walking out of the compartment and saw this scene in the 1000 Medicine Workshop at the moment. Suddenly, everyone in the 1000 Medicine Workshop could not help but change their complexion. Even some strong people with the same strength as the 8.5-star emperor could not help showing a dignified color when looking at the fire dragon. Obviously, although the old man doesn't look very good, his strength can't be underestimated. The art of controlling fire, a herbalist? What about even a herbalist? Get out of here. Seeing the oncoming fire dragon, Xiao Yang couldn't help but look surprised. Unexpectedly, the other party was still a herbalist. However, it couldn't suppress the anger in Xiao Yang's heart at the moment. Since leaving Sulan City, Xiao Yang has secretly vowed in his heart that he will never hurt Murong Qianqian again. At present, the old man still wants to hurt Murong Qianqian in front of him, which Xiao Yang can't tolerate. Poof! As soon as the palm was grasped, a blue flame appeared in Xiao Yang's palm. In order not to be identified, Xiao Yang had to use his most familiar Qinglian earth fire for the time being. Starting with the flame, Xiao Yang's body suddenly shook. When the fire dragon came, he waved his big hand, covered the whole palm with the blue flame, and grabbed it at the fire dragon. At the same time, the fire dragon was angry and had a body of more than 10 feet. He released a terrible temperature in the 1000 Medicine Workshop. He swallowed it all at Xiao Yang. Boy, even if you are not weak, you will not be an opponent under my red flame dragon. Seeing that Xiao Yang was about to be swallowed up by the fire dragon, the old man couldn't help but show a sneer on his face. It seemed that he had confidence in his fire dragon. But the next moment, hiss. When the fire dragon was about to devour Xiao Yang stretched out his hands and grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the fire dragon in his hands as soon as he went up and down and covered the flame. With Xiao Yang's physical strength, although the fire dragon is not weak, he still can't get rid of Xiao Yang's physical body, which is more terrible than Warcraft. The corners of his lips raised a touch of disdain to ridicule. Xiao Yang suddenly pulled his arms to both sides. Suddenly, the whole body of the fire dragon swayed uncontrollably. Seeing this scene, the sneer on the old man's face just disappeared. Then, just as the old man was about to move, Xiao Yang opened his arms, but suddenly pulled them out. Soon, I heard a stab. Under the almost dull eyes of everyone in the 1000 Medicine Workshop, the fire dragon, which was more than 10 times larger than Xiao Yang's body, was forcibly torn apart by Xiao Yang in an extremely unbelievable way. After the fire dragon was torn to pieces, Xiao Yang's body did not stop at all. In a twinkling of an eye, he came to the old man. He twisted his body and kicked out a big foot. Bang! With a bang, the crutch in the old man's hand instantly broke into 2 sections. At the same time, his steps also couldn't help rubbing back. After retreating more than a dozen steps, he finally couldn't help lying back and rolling for 2 times. Then he hit the crowd behind him and gasped violently. Hum. At the same time, Xiao Yang at the door of the compartment also gave another disdainful cold hum. Soon, he walked slowly into the compartment. Suddenly, everyone who was close to it turned pale and gave way to it one after another. At the same time, in the compartment, I saw Murong Qianxian of Xiao Yang at the moment. The pale color on her pretty face was swept away in an instant. Instead, it was a color of ecstasy like the rest of life. The girl's delicate body moved and took 2 steps at once. In a twinkling of an eye, she came to Xiao Yang's face, threw herself into Xiao Yang's arms, and held him tightly from the back with a pair of jade hands. The girl's behavior also made Xiao Yang's face look a little stunned. She just wanted to push the girl's delicate body away gently, but then the grievance sobbing sound from the girl in her arms made Xiao Yang's hands fall down again. At the same time, on the other side, the old man in brocade got up from the ground with the help of the girl. He threw down the broken crutch in his hand. Soon, the old man looked up at Xiao Yang with a gloomy face, and a trace of blood slowly flowed down the corner of his lips. Boy, you are the first one who can hurt me for so many years. Wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth with one hand, the old man's dry palms suddenly clenched together, killing a pair of cloudy old eyes. Oh, really, it's a great honor. Gently pushed the girl in his arms away. Xiao Yang glanced up and down at the girl in front of him, and said coldly without looking back. Boy, you want to die. Hearing Xiao Yang's disdainful words, the old man immediately felt a rage in his heart. After his bent body trembled violently, the old man suddenly drank, and his fighting spirit surged in his body. He wanted to fight against Xiao Yang again. Master Shu, this is a 1,000 medicine workshop. Do you really want to do it here? However, just when the old man was about to make a move, outside the hall, there was another soft voice that was slightly cold and charming. Suddenly, the fighting spirit that had just surged up in the old man's body calmed down in the twinkling of an eye. A gloomy old face was also filled with deep fear. Master Shu, I haven't seen you for several years. Your temper hasn't calmed down at all. The delicate voice sounds charming, but under this voice, Rao can't help feeling a burst of fear with the old man's heart. No hands are allowed in the 1,000 medicine workshop. This is a rule that everyone in Yangcheng knows. Of course, even if the old man is not from Yangcheng, he also knows that no one can break this rule so far. For nothing else, just because this red-skirt woman slowly appeared in the sight of everyone at the moment, the owner of the 1,000 medicine workshop, a real emperor fighting strong man, in the face of Jin Yaro, even though Xu Songming is a second-order herbalist, it is still not worth mentioning for the former. After all, only the pill refined by the third-order herbalist can make the strong emperor excited. Hihi, Master Jinfang, you're all right. After a few years, Master Jinfang is more and more charming. On the contrary, years are unforgiving and old. Old eyes narrowed, Xu Songming raised his eyes and looked at Jin Yaro, whose delicate body slowly floated in the hall. A hint of exclamation appeared on his old face. Giggle, Master Xu, I don't want to listen to or say more polite words, but at present, I still hope you can stop it. I already know the context of this matter. This is your granddaughter who has gone too far. If you pull the old man and hurt your muscles and bones for a small matter, my 1,000 medicine workshop doesn't have so many herbs to compensate you. The delicate voice made many men accompanying him blush, but Jin Yaro's words made Xu Songming angry. He can ignore the things between the two girls, but the boy behind Jin Yaro made Xu Songming lose his old face. If he doesn't give the boy some color today, he will be laughed at in the future. Master Jin, I advise you not to interfere in this matter. The eyelids were slightly low, Xu Songming was cloudy, and the cold dawn condensed in a pair of cloudy old eyes, and his face was gloomy. Hearing the speech, Jin Yaro's lips turned red and a sarcastic smile appeared on her pretty face. As soon as her bright wrist turned, her jade hand casually played with a wisp of green silk. Soon, she looked at Xu Songming and said indifferently, Xu Songming, a second-class medicine refiner, does he really take himself seriously? In my 1,000 medicine workshop, not to mention you, it's the fighting emperor. You should follow my rules. Xu Songming, You think, with your 8-star and half Emperor's strength, why order the owner of this workshop? At the same time that Jin Yao's voice fell, a pair of beautiful eyes suddenly raised. The icy eyes stabbed Xu Songming like a sharp sword. Just one look made the latter panic and retreat. Jin Yao, today is different from the past. Do you really think that I haven't made any progress in refining medicine these years? To tell you the truth, I have touched the barrier of the third-order herbalist. I believe I can officially enter the third-order herbalist within 2 months. Don't think about it then. Cluck, cluck. I thought you had broken through. It turned out that you were just fast. But even so, you're different now. Haven't you broken through yet? In the final analysis, you're still a second-class herbalist. Xu Songming's voice didn't fall, but Jin Yao interrupted it with a sneer. The meaning of disdain to sneer in his words made Xu Songming angry after listening to it. Jin Yao, don't think you're a doody. I'm afraid of you. I've contacted another doody. If you dare to stop it today, I'll take someone to level your 1000 medicine workshop in 3 months. It's up to you. Believe it or not, our leader will let you have no return today. You'll never have a chance to break through the third-level herbalist again. As soon as she blurted out her words full of resentment, Jin Yao suddenly snorted coldly. At the same time, an extremely terrible invisible pressure immediately condensed from Jin Yao's body and bombarded Xu Songming with unparalleled terror. I couldn't help saying that the terrible momentum and pressure hit Xu Songming hard before he reacted. Bang! Just listening to a bang, it was just a powerful force, so he randomly blew Xu Songming out and directly pierced the hall from front to back. At the same time, even the whole hall was trembling slightly. Puff! When Xu Songming stopped his body with a white face, a mouthful of old blood gushed out of his mouth, but on his face, he looked more and more ferocious and resentful. Jin Yao, how dare you kill me? I'm from the Alliance of Herbalists. You. A second-class herbalist will kill our master if he kills him. What can the Herbalist Alliance do to our master? You. Hearing Jin Yao's words without hesitation, Xu Songming could not help feeling a sense of fear in his heart. Jin Yao is a real strong man fighting against the emperor. Looking at the whole western region, the strong man of this level is the top. Although the Alliance of Herbalists is strong, it is absolutely impossible to find a strong man fighting against the emperor for revenge for a second-class herbalist. If Jin Yao really kills him today, he will really die in vain. Okay. Jin Yao, wait. 3 months later. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Don't think you can walk freely in our 1000 medicine workshop after stepping on the third-order herbalist in 3 months. I might as well tell you that the gentleman standing behind our workshop leader is a third-order herbalist. If you think you can deal with him, then 3 months later, our workshop leader will be in Yangcheng waiting for Master Xu. Xu Songming's cruel words didn't fall yet. Jin Yao's next words made his face suddenly solidified. When he looked up, Jin Yao also moved and made way for the people present. Suddenly, everyone's eyes fell on Xiao Yan like spotlights. Third-level herbalist, and he is still such a young third-level herbalist. If the news gets out, I'm afraid those strong fighters who Xu Songming has worked hard to summon will abandon him in a moment. How? Possible? No, it's impossible. How could this boy be a third-order herbalist? I don't know how many years I've been stagnant. How could he be a third-order herbalist if he was a hairy boy? Xu Songming's dark old eyes were filled with a strong look of disbelief. His whole body trembled violently because of his anger and unwilling emotion. His green tendons twisted violently like insects eroding into the skin. The hoarse low roar was forcibly squeezed out from between his lips and teeth, and even the air was buzzing and trembling. Cluck, my sister said so much. Should I be a brother? You can't let your sister talk and slap in the face. In this regard, Jin Yao directly shot her beautiful eyes at Xiao Yang. Her slightly upturned red lips made her reverie, while Xiao Yang smiled bitterly in her heart. In front of their feelings, these people really regarded him as a third-class herbalist. You know, the reason why he said so before was just to kill Jin Yao, but he didn't expect to get into such a situation at the moment. Hey, boy, it's fun to let you grow up. As long as you dare to release your soul power, they will immediately realize that you're not a third-class herbalist at all. At that time, tut-tut, I don't know how this woman will treat you. Knowing the embarrassment in Xiao Yang's heart at the moment, Guyo looks like it's none of his business, and starts to tease Xiao Yang. Bone is old. At this time, can't you say something normal? In his heart, Xiao Yang had to smile bitterly at Ji Yu. Hey, you should remember this lesson. Don't think I can help you next time. Hey, with a smile, Guyo seemed to have expected this. Immediately, in Xiao Yang's mind, an unparalleled force of the soul appeared in Xiao Yang's mind like a spring. With the infusion of this soul power, Xiao Yang's soul power also exceeded the level of the second-order herbalist in a flash, and successfully stepped into the third order. Feeling the feeling of fullness in her mind, Xiao Yang couldn't help breathing out a long breath. Murong Qianqian, who was beside her, could not help but frown slightly when she saw Xiao Yang. Although she couldn't see it, her intuition as a girl always made her feel that Xiao Yang at this moment seemed a little different from that just now. At the same time, Jin Yarrow, not far in front of the two people, also had a slight change in her pretty face. In a pair of beautiful eyes, a touch of essence flashed and died. Obviously, she also noticed a trace of strangeness from Xiao Yang. However, it was only an inexplicable feeling, and she couldn't grasp it in the palm of her hand. The next moment. At the moment when Xiao Yang's eyes fell, the gorgeous flame flashed through his eyes. At the same time, the fire seal in the center of his eyebrows suddenly flourished at the moment. Then, a magnificent and vast terrorist soul force swept out from the center of his eyebrows. Wow dash! At the moment when this soul force swept out, everyone in the whole 1000 medicine workshop turned crazy. Under the pressure of this soul, few people present could resist. This guy is really a third-order herbalist. Feeling the terrible soul pressure that rushed towards him quickly, the look on Xu Songming's old face also changed in an instant. At the moment when the soul pressure fell on him, a big mouthful of blood gushed out again. Boy! We'll have. Get out. Before Xu Songming uttered the words full of resentment, Xiao Yang suddenly gave a cold hum. The invisible soul power immediately bombarded Xu Songming, completely blasted out of the 1000 medicine workshop and appeared in the eyes of everyone in Yangcheng. Xu Songming was blown away by a blow. Everyone in the 1000 medicine workshop was shocked by Xiao Yang's move. Unexpectedly, this ordinary-looking young man in black dared to fight even the elders of the Herbalist Alliance. However, when people return to God and think again, they are relieved. Although Xu Songming is an elder of the Herbalist Alliance, it's good that Xiao Yang does not seem to have any special identity compared with him, but if it's really compared, even if Xu Songming is a member of the Herbalist Alliance, I believe even the Herbalist Alliance will not hesitate to choose the latter in front of a third-class herbalist. What's more, this is still such a young third-class herbalist. This kind of talent is extremely indulgent, but even if you look at the whole continent, it is rare. How can the Alliance of Herbalists find Xiao Yang to settle accounts for a Xu Songming? On the other side, seeing her grandfather being blown away by Xiao Yang with soul power, the girl's pretty face also couldn't help turning white in an instant. Her weak body couldn't help shaking violently. Immediately, her body moved and wanted to run away from the 1000 medicine workshop. Stop! However, just when the girl was about to leave, Murong Qianqian was full of cold words, but it exploded in the girl's mind like a thunder, making her body suddenly fixed in place. At the same time, a cold sweat came out of his whole body and quickly wetted the girl's long skirt. After a long time, the concave convex and beautiful figure fell into the eyes of the people present. At this time, the girl was completely indifferent to these. With Murong Qianqian's voice falling, her delicate body turned around uneasily after a more violent panic and trembling. On weekdays, with her grandfather at her side, the girl seems to be arrogant and domineering. Now, seeing her grandfather who doesn't have to worry about everything with her own eyes, she was blown away. In the girl's heart, she finally felt the taste of despair at this moment. Give the bracelet back to Miss Ben. Walking in front of the girl, Murong Qianqian's pretty face looked cold, and his mouth said impolitely. Hearing this, the girl couldn't help but relax. It seemed that she was glad that Murong Qianqian didn't let Xiao Yang kill her. Murong Qianqian knew nothing about the girl's idea, and even if he knew it, he would only sneer at it. Although Murong Qianqian was extremely dissatisfied with the girl, she was far from angry enough to want to kill. Perhaps it was also because of her identity. She disdained such people. The girl's jade hand trembled slightly and hurriedly took off the bracelet that had been worn on her wrist. When she pulled off the bracelet, she even hated why she put the bracelet so tightly, so that when she took it off, in order not to make Murong Qianqian angry in front of her, she tore off a layer of skin on her wrist with the bracelet. She didn't find the wound on her wrist until she left the 1000 medicine workshop. A stream of tears full of fear and grievance could not help flowing down. In the 1000 medicine workshop, with the end of the farce, all the people in the medicine workshop should go and stay. Looking at the almost destroyed compartment in front of her, Jin Yarrow showed a helpless look on her pretty face, and immediately looked at Xiao Yang. The latter's terrible soul power, after using a few short breaths, quickly took it back, which did not prohibit Jin Yarrow from frowning again, but even if it turned into a helpless sigh, raised her beautiful eyes, the corners of her eyes turned up slightly, joked and smiled at Xiao Yang. Everything in my 1,000 medicine workshop is worth more than 10,000 spirit coins. You destroyed so much for me at once. It's a whole haul. Come on, how are you going to compensate? Xiao Yang's just blow destroyed more than half of the jewelry items in the hall. Not only did they look good, most of them were embedded with magic cores, and even some were engraved with small arrays. Naturally, their value is not comparable to that of ordinary jewelry. Here, I have a bracelet left. Give it back to you first. Just as Xiao Yangang was about to speak, Murong Qianqian suddenly walked in front of Jin Yao. His jade hands were spread out and a string of bracelets were standing quietly. The beautiful eyes stared at the bracelet in the palm, and the girl's pretty face showed a look of reluctance. Seeing this, Jin Yao naturally understood the girl's mind in an instant. Immediately, Jin Yao glanced over the girl in front of her and looked at Xiao Yang. The latter also stood up to her in amazement, but she didn't expect this. Seeing the helpless expression on Xiao Yang's face, Jin Yao couldn't help laughing in her heart. Then, a pair of bright beautiful eyes returned to Murong Qianqian in front of her again, covered her mouth and said with a smile, "Cluck. My sister is just a joke. My little sister doesn't have to take it seriously. It's just a bracelet. It's not worth a few money. Since my little sister likes it, I'll give it to you." Well, hearing the speech, Murong Qianqian's pretty face could not help but be slightly stunned, and immediately turned to look at Xiao Yang behind him. I'm afraid there won't be any other reason to let the woman show this attitude in front of her except Xiao Yang. Seeing the girl's eyes coming, Xiao Yang had to show a helpless color on his old face. When the former saw this, his small mouth immediately tooted, and he tilted his mouth angrily in his heart, but the bracelet in his hand was impolitely put away. Hihi, Master Jin, I have some things to do, so I won't stay much longer. As for the herbs I need, if I can, please pay attention to them for me. If I have the opportunity, I'm willing to do this business with Master Jin. Seeing that the two women were no longer talking, the atmosphere in the field could not help becoming embarrassed, and Xiao Yang cried bitterly in his heart. Jin Yao didn't stop Murong Qianqian's misunderstanding. Instead, she looked like watching a good play, which really gave Xiao Yang a headache. Giggle, since Mr. still has something to do, I won't stay anymore. Today, it's like this. I really need some time to close the room. Then, I won't give more gifts, you two. It seems that she guessed Xiao Yang's mind. Jin Yao giggled and leaned over to Xiao Yang. The graceful posture was very imaginative. At the moment, Xiao Yang saw this, but he trembled fiercely in his heart. He quickly pulled up Murong Qianqian, fled and quickly left outside the 1,000 medicine workshop. When Xiao Yang returned to his residence, he stayed in his room for the remaining 2 days, waiting for the auction. At the same time, the news about the third-order herbalist swept the whole city like a storm. A third-order medicine refiner, who is enough to impress the strong at the level of duty. Even if the strong at the level of duty see him, he also needs to be treated politely. Now, there are such characters in this burning city. How can this make the strong in all parts of the city unmoved at the moment? Various forces sent people to explore one after another. It seems that they want to find out where the third-order herbalist came from. Unfortunately, after 2 days of exploration, they still know nothing about the final results. At the moment, it's time to open the Yangcheng auction. When the first ray of morning light fell on the earth, the burning city, which had been suppressed all night, became lively early. Inside and outside the city, a large crowd like running water poured in. The white fish belly on the horizon and the earth had not dispersed, but the whole burning city had already been overcrowded. In the streets and alleys, at a glance, countless heads are stirring. In the sky, there are also hundreds of high-level semi-emperors standing in the void, waiting for the opening of the auction house. In a room where the door was closed for 2 days, Xiao Yang sat on the bed. Until now, he slowly opened his eyes. When his eyes opened, a white flame flashed from the depths of his pupils like lightning, and gradually outlined a smile at the corners of his mouth. The mind moved, and in the middle of the eyebrows, the majestic soul force suddenly swept out, exploring the situation in the outside city. When Xiao Yang's soul power spread out, in the Yang city, several figures with calm breath and the look on their faces could not help but change slightly. They looked at each other, and there was a sense of curiosity in their eyes. Is Your Excellency the third-order herbalist? Invisibly, a voice came into Xiao Yang's mind at the moment, which made him move slightly on his ordinary face. You must be the strong fighters who came to participate in the auction. Just for a moment, the look on Xiao Yang's face returned to calm again. As strong fighters, their keen perception of the world around them is naturally not ordinary and comparable to that of half-emperors. Although it is the sole exploration of a third-order herbalist, as long as the soul power of the herbalist is not strong enough to a certain extent, they can also detect it. The master should also come for the auction. In that case, the next few people would like to invite the master to have a chat. The status of the third-order medicine refiner made these arrogant strong men dare not have the slightest carelessness in their hearts. Although a strong man fighting the emperor is terrible, no matter where he goes, he is always alone, but the herbalist is different. A high-level herbalist, even if his strength is not much, will be surrounded by people wherever he goes. Such a person can be easily provoked. As the saying goes, a pharmacist is like a hornet's nest. They don't want to provoke such a terrible guy. I appreciate your kindness, but if you are invited, I don't have to. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed falsely. How could he not guess the plans of these guys? But now he is suffering from enemies. If it's not necessary, he doesn't want to easily expose his identity, which is not good for him. Several people could not help frowning when they heard the speech, but they also knew that the herbalist had a strange temper. It was normal that he was not invited. It was just a pity for them that a third-order herbalist could not be easily miss. If such people can make friends with them, it's best, but if they can't make enemies with them. Otherwise, even if they are strong against the emperor, they can't afford the consequences. In the room, Xiao Yang's mind moved, and the spread soul power quickly retracted like a vented ball. In a twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang took it back. Who? With a long breath, Xiao Yang could not help wrinkling his eyebrows, but he didn't expect that the third-order herbalist could have such a big face. Even the strong fighting emperor were polite, but he didn't know when he would really get to this step. What Xiao Yang released just now is just that Jiu borrowed his soul power. By himself, his soul power, but even Xu Songming is a little inferior. If he wants to become a third-order herbalist, he doesn't know it will be the year of the monkey. Come in, the door is unlocked. The next moment, just as Murong Qianqian outside Xiao Yang's door was about to knock, Xiao Yang suddenly spit out such a sentence for no reason. Outside the door, Murong Qianqian heard Xiao Yang's words. He turned his mouth lightly. Immediately, as soon as the jade hand pushed the door, he walked into the house. Hey, the auction is about to start. Why are you still in your room? There are so many people participating in the auction. You can't get in even if you're late. Don't you intend to participate in the auction? The girl's words were mixed with an unhappy mood. After leaving the 1000 medicine workshop 2 days ago, the girl in front of her had been feeding and feeding like this, calling Xiao Yang. Although she couldn't get used to hearing it, Xiao Yang responded with a bitter smile. Well, I'm awake. The momentum of this auction is not small. I have to prepare something. Otherwise, I'll take what to compete with those guys. With a slight smile, Xiao Yang didn't entangle more in the girl's name. Then he patted the bed under his body with both hands. Suddenly, his body sitting on the bed stood up like a spring. The dark eyes slowly lifted up and looked at the girl in front of him. The corners of his mouth slowly raised a smile and said, "Let's go to the auction house. There will be someone to pick us up." With a slight smile, Xiao Yang raised his feet first and went straight to the door. Later, Murong Qianqian looked at Xiao Yang in front of her with a little curiosity in her beautiful eyes, and her jade hand couldn't help scratching her head. Since the incident 2 days ago, she always felt that Xiao Yang in front of her was different, but it was different. Where was it? But it was unknown. She skimmed her lips. The girl thought about it, but she couldn't help being curious. When Xiao Yang talked about the auction house, someone would pick them up. What does this mean? Today's Yangcheng is obviously more lively than ever before. People are noisy, like gongs and drums. There is a sea of people in the sky and underground. On the ground of the city, the crowded crowd is surging like a group of ants. In the sky, more and more semi-imperialist strong men gathered over the Yang city, like a dense dark cloud, covering the whole Yang city, so that most of the sunlight originally shining between heaven and earth was blocked. Out of the residence, Xiao Yang and Murong Qianqian kept walking. They directly stepped on the void, moved, and flew away in the direction of the auction house in the center of the city. With what happened in the 1000 medicine workshop 2 days ago, many people are familiar with Xiao Yang's face in today's Yangcheng. Therefore, many people have found their existence just after Xiao Yang walked out of a distance of less than 100 feet. Immediately, many people looked respectfully at Xiao Yang. Some of the near semi-imperial strongmen, with a humble smile, quickly bowed to Xiao Yang. In this regard, Xiao Yang smiled back. At the same time, in his heart, he couldn't help but smack his tongue secretly. From what we see today, we can easily see the difference between ability and incompetence. When he was only a second-class herbalist, although people would be surprised when they saw him, at most that was all. There were countless people behind him who wanted to kill him. However, when the semi-imperial strong saw him, they all showed a greedy expression like a wolf like a tiger. However, at the moment, when he is a third-order herbalist, not only the semi-emperor strong will be respectful to him, but also the real emperor strong and powerful terrorist will be polite to him. I have to say that the gap is dwarfed. Alas. He sighed secretly without intuition in his heart. Although Xiao Yang seemed to have infinite scenery on the surface at the moment, only he knew that what he relied on was just the strength of Gu. In a short moment, Xiao Yang and Murong Qianqian, who followed him, had come to a huge ring-shaped ancient building. The whole ancient building is like a huge ring crawling on the ground. Inside the ancient building, there is a huge open-air stone platform. At the edge, dozens of feet away from the stone platform, there are layers of high platforms, spreading like stairs. Further up, there are compartments supported by high under the stone columns. Looking down from high, you can see them at first, those are the cubicles. The auction house is actually an open-air auction house. You know, in order to ensure that no one will rob the auction items and escape, the general auction house usually builds the auction house in a heavily guarded room. In this way, it can give some shock to the people who come to the auction on the premise of ensuring that no one causes trouble. However, the auction house that appears in front of Xiao Yang at the moment is the first time Xiao Yang has seen since he practiced. Tut tut. Shaking his head gently, Xiao Yang couldn't help but tut and exclaimed. Even if there is a strong man fighting the emperor, the auction house is really too bold and wild. If a strong man dares to cause trouble at the auction, even if it is a strong man fighting the emperor, he may not be able to protect the auction product. Of course, this kind of thing has nothing to do with Xiao Yang. Naturally, he is too lazy to think more. With a sigh in his heart, he takes Murong Qianqian, moves forward and flies down to the auction house below. Although the flow of people in Yangcheng today is several times more than usual, there is a large site around the auction house at this moment. Xiao Yang fell here in Murong Qianqian. On this site, you can see a huge door opening at a glance, which is the entrance to the auction. At this moment, around Xiao Yang and others, many people are lined up and abide by the order of entering the auction house. All of these people are semi-imperialist. Here, even the semi-emperor strong who are usually respected in front of outsiders can only queue up to enter the auction house like ordinary people. I have to say that the inside information of the auction house can really be called terror. Seeing that there was a long line of nearly 100 people in front of him, Murong Qianqian could not help but frown. Meimo ruthlessly cut Xiao Yang's eyes and said angrily, "It's all your fault. Let you hurry up. Now the line is so long. Don't we have to wait until dark when we go in?" Xiao Yang couldn't help smiling bitterly in his heart. It seemed that the two of them most wanted to participate in the auction was themselves. Right. How could Murong Qianqian be more worried than him when the auction began? Xiao Yang didn't think much about the girl's mind. As for speculation, it's impossible to talk about it. Of course, Xiao Yang doesn't know. The girl is not in a hurry to participate in the auction. It's just that what Xiao Yang wants is inside. In order not to let Xiao Yang regret missing it, she's in such a hurry. From the beginning to the end, the girl didn't think about whether she wanted to participate in the auction. All she thought of was Xiao Yang in front of her, just because there was something he wanted to pursue here. Maybe such things are not important to the girl, but the girl understands that such things are important to Xiao Yang, and this is the reason why Murong Qianqian is more anxious to enter the auction house than Xiao Yang. Hee, well, don't worry. I said that someone will pick us up. Just wait and see. As for Murong Qianqian's words, Xiao Yang smiled lightly. He put a smile on the corners of his mouth, put his hands around his chest, and slowly raised his dark eyes. He looked at the tall ancient building in front of him. The light in his eyes flickered slightly. He saw that there was a dragon flying and phoenix dancing heaven on the thick and steady stone wall directly above the door opening of the ancient building, which was engraved like an iron painting and silver hook. After several breaths, Xiao Yang's smile on the corner of his mouth became even worse. He immediately turned around and said to Murong Qianqian with a smile, "Here we are." The voice fell, and Murong Qianqian's pretty face could not help but move slightly. A touch of curiosity appeared. When the beautiful eyes raised and shot around, a slightly hoarse old voice suddenly spread in the void space. This master, Fang Qian, is the steward of Tianyun auction house. Entrusted by several adults, he came to invite you in. At the same time when the old voice came out, the emptiness in front of Xiao Yang suddenly twisted. Immediately, a kind old man with white hair appeared in front of Xiao Yang. When the old man appeared, he bowed his hands respectfully to Xiao Yang Lu, smiling at Xiao Yang. You're welcome, sir. I'm a junior, but I don't dare to call this master. Hearing the old man's words, Xiao Yang dare not neglect it. Judging from the old man's sudden appearance, he must also be a strong fighter against the emperor. No doubt, Xiao Yang still takes the most Gongjin attitude towards this kind of person. After all, if you tell the truth, he is only a second-class medicine refiner after all. Being convenient to others is to be convenient to himself and respectful to each other. Maybe this is for Xiao Yang, it will help a little. Master is modest, but in that case, please enter the auction house first. Those guys have prepared the box for the master. The old man looked at Xiao Yang in front of him with a little admiration. Fang Qian was surprised. The black-robed youth in front of him was not only young and promising, but also able to be neither arrogant nor impetuous. This kind of thing was never seen in other young people the old man had seen. From this point alone, the old man's favor for Xiao Yang increased rapidly. Well, I really came here for the auction. However, I'd like to ask you to decline the boxes you've booked for me. I don't like being favored by others. I'll do it myself. With a slight smile, Xiao Yang refuted the so-called box with a very firm tone. Hearing the speech, Fang Qian couldn't help but have a brilliant flash in his old eyes. Such meticulous mind, coupled with this terrible cultivation talent, this son will be extraordinary in the future. The old and the young were polite one after another, while Murong Qianqian, who was behind Xiao Yang, was stunned with a slightly dull look on his pretty face, but unexpectedly, someone would really come to pick up Xiao Yang. Well, don't stand. Let's go. Aren't you anxious to go in? I'll take you in now. This video will end here.